John, what are your expectations from the next generation of the consoles versus the PC capabilities? So what are you expecting from the PlayStation 3 and from the Xbox 2?
Okay, console games. I'm not intimately involved in most of the console development. It's not a business model that I like all that much. I don't make a point to go out and get disclosed really early on it. I would say that I'm a little bit bothered by the next generation push towards, again, multiple processors, which I thought most people would have learned the lessons from the previous generation, where if you take a console that has one fast processor, one fast graphics accelerator, everybody loves to work on it, it's nice to program. If you take a console that has multiple processors that add up to some wonderful figure of power, it rarely gets utilized, as much, and it hinders development time. And I'm a little bit surprised that, that's kind of come back as, as another development strategy for that.
So it actually relates to the console thing. I mean, I think everyone would agree with you that it's way easier to program for a fast CPU and a graphics card. But hey, they didn't pay attention. So given that the next consoles are all multiprocessing, how would you architect, in broad strokes, obviously, an engine to work on that, since it's such a pain?
Well, the most straightforward thing is to go ahead and try to find. It's hardest when you've got a small granular number of processors. I mean, talking 2 to 4 processors is something that makes it really difficult to split things up, because you could go ahead and say, all right, let's amp up the audio and use fully one processor to just make audio done. That's not a bad thing to go ahead and do there. When you want to try and really accelerate, say, rendering there, you're going to pick. There's no really optimal way to split rendering over 2 or 3 processors. We split into a front end, back end, where you do kind of like CPU based things. All the animation and deformation separated from the actual rendering, and that can get you, kind of sort of to a 50% split. But when you start looking at numbers like if you want to split 4 processors across graphics, it turns out that just about the best way to do that is to section the screen, and you get some benefit from that, but it's not a 4x improvement over there. You can also try to, if you're running at very high frame rates, you can go ahead and pipeline full frames, which is a pretty good thing. So that's an interesting possibility where if you want to go ahead and use kind of subsampled aspects in there with, if you want to do your soft shadowing, your motion blur, your order-independent translucencies, all the analytically intractable things by actually rendering many more frames than your actual frame rate and doing a final compositing pass on there. That would be a reasonably good way to try and use 4 processors for something. But it becomes much worse than when you've got 4 CPUs and a single graphics resource where you just wind up queuing up all of those things. And I'm not thrilled with those directions. And I think that we've got several generations showing that this was just not a great thing, which is why I'm again kind of surprised that it's in vogue again.